I'm sure that most of you by now are sick and tired of hearing the word tier limit, and I don't blame you. We're in a meta where we're going to be looking at that name and that deck a lot. Basically, you're lucky if 4 out of 5, maybe 6 even games in a row aren't tier limits. So what we're going to do is, instead of trying to fight the wave, we're going to let them have their day in the sun, and instead, over this next weekend, we're going to have a look at the more casual side of the game, playing in the casual ladder, and what better way to start a casual game than with gadgets. Now, this is a deck that we built in a Discord call with a number of our members. It was a lot of fun. We initially discovered it. Since then, we've optimized it and improved it, and this deck is unironically really, really good. Super fun, utilizing all of the gadgets. Honestly, it's a blast. Completely different take on it, utilizing the Vernuslyph cards to the fullest possible effect, I think. Again, these cards are amazing, and there's no better way of taking advantage of them than with gadgets. So we're going to be doing a deck profile at the end, but I do have a few really cool duels lined up that's going to show you how the deck works, why we're playing things, why we're playing it, some mistakes and misplays to avoid as well, because it does take a little bit of learning to sort of get it all worked out. But basically what you ideally want to end on is at least an Avramax plus a barrier statue. So that means they're locked out of special summoning anything but Earth, and the Avramax prevents them from just taking the barrier statue out. Now, on top of that, you could typically summon Barchion, you can summon your Cheng Ying, you can summon Abyss Dweller, you can summon all of these extra monsters on top of that core strategy. So it's really, really versatile. Honestly, I'm super impressed, and I plan on further building and innovating on this deck in the future, but I feel like it's a pretty done deal. Like, this deck is awesome. So we're gonna go in, watch a couple of gameplays. We'll do a card for card deck profile at the end where I talk about every card and why we include it, but it is rather straightforward. If you are new to the channel and you're interested in this style of content, either casual or competitive, or maybe just streams, whatever it is that tickles your fancy, maybe you just like the cut of my jib, subscribe. You know, doesn't hurt you, doesn't cost you anything, helps me, helps you, everybody wins. Why not? And like the video if you enjoy. Let's get into it. Already getting into game 1 here, and as you can see, this hand, literally full combo. First of all, Secas Light is broken, right? Secas Light is disgusting, but literally anytime you see this guy, or Vernuslyph of the Flourishing Hills, plus any gadget, immediately full combo, right? The rest of this hand is just gravy. Secas Light, draw 2, shuffle back one of our cards, draw what, basically it's like a draw 3 almost, right? Because you get that mulligan. Gonna summon out the Analyzer, check the top 4 of the deck, just to see if he has like an Impermanent, Ash Blossoms, anything like that. We do get to summon a Doki Doki, which is nice. I believe in this game we do make small misplay where we fill up our field too quickly and forget to link some cards off, but we'll talk about it as we do it. We're going to drop for our Vernuslyphs, and basically what happens is all of the Vernuslyph cards, you discard them, as well as another Earth monster. You utilize an effect, be it searching another Vernuslyph, be it grabbing like sending from deck to graveyard, whatever it is. And then once that effect resolves, you then get the chance to special summon an Earth monster from your graveyard. Now, the way the gadgets play into this is they are, of course, Earth, which means they're discard fodder. But then when you can then special summon them from the graveyard with the Vernuslyph effect. On summon, they search for another gadget, and then that gives you another piece of discard material, discard fodder, for you to continue the loop and continually draw more cards and resolve your Vernuslyphs and mill more cards. Plus, they're all level 4s, which means, and this part's important, our yellow gadget's going to grab us green. Now we can exceed summon into, we're going to link in the Mask Arena first of all. Now we're going to exceed in the Granite. That means you're always going to have access to your Block Dragon. Every single game, instant access to Block Dragon. Block Dragon then gets the rest of the deck running. We're going to Doki Doki here. This is a bit extra, you don't need to do this. We decided the Guardian statue early here. I was a little bit afraid of Nibiru. He had something that kept on popping up that was activatable. I got scared of Nibiru. I panicked a little. I'm not going to lie, I may have messed it up, right? But that's fine. We decided we're just going to sit on this for now. We're going to grab 3 rocks from the deck. Researcher, Seeker, and a Guardian. And we're simply going to pass there. Not our greatest moment, but again, we're playing against tier limits in casual. Now, this guy was playing something based as hell. That's why I wanted to show this game off. So we don't have exactly the greatest board here, but he's playing Vernuslyph tier limits. We do Ash his Vernuslyph monster, so he doesn't get an awful lot out of that, which is great. Flourishing Hills gets negated. Swings in, takes out our Mask Arena, and I'm pretty sure from here he just... I don't think he sticks around for very long. Switches back to our turn. That gives us the opportunity to start playing. No, yeah, he just leaves. Locked out of special summoning anything but Earth. Doesn't basically the BLS there is like a miniature Avramax. Can't be targeted by or destroyed by artifacts. It banishes cards when it battles something. It's pretty snazzy. But the main thing I wanted to show off there was the Gadget loop. Now that's only one instance. The next games are going to be an even better demonstration of it because we're going to go into our full actual big boards and combos. So let's get into that. In this game, we go just a little bit stupid, I'm not gonna lie. Our opponent's got Magical Mallet. Now, their deck's incredible. You're gonna like it. They're playing Chain Energy Time Lords, which is a real pain. Of course it is, it's a pain. We're gonna draw into our Mystic Seedlings, and there you go. Just like that, full combo, right? Chain Energy, we have to pay 500 every time we activate a monster effect in a hand, or if we decide to special summon a monster, which is like really specific, but fair enough. He's just going to try and burn us down. We grab our Flourishing Hills, special summon out the yellow Gadget. Yellow Gadget search for green Gadget. That's fine. We take some more damage. Flourishing Hills activates, drops a green, grabs the burr. Then we summon green to the field. Green activates and grabs us red. Now we're going to use our burr. We're going to discard itself and red. We're going to send the Revival Golem, summon the red, summon the Golem as well after our red grabs us a yellow Gadget. So there you go, replacing itself every single time, and Revival Golem now summoning itself out to the field as well. Nothing but pluses. We've got the Granite now. Granite's going to detach a material. We're going to search our deck for a Block Dragon. Now we are going to alter our play slightly here because we need to get around that Chain Energy. So we are going to try and make a play to get rid of that as soon as possible, which we do have. We're going to banish 3, we're going to summon the Block Dragon, of course. We're going to link 5 off into the Goddess of the Closed World to get rid of the Time Lord. Time Lord is a little bit of an issue, and we really wanted this guy in our hand. So now that we've got the Analyzer in hand, we're going to normal summon the Analyzer, activate its effect, hopefully hit a rock here off the top of the deck, which we do, of course. Again, even if we didn't, we had 2 more attempts at it with the Researcher and the Seeker, so we were almost certainly going to get one. We're going to summon out Guardian here, then we're going to activate Researcher just to make sure we still have an Adamantipator on board so we can continue the combo. Go into the Scrap Dragon, we're going to activate Block Dragon and Grave to resummon it. Scrap's going to pop the back row, then we're going to use Researcher's effect. We're going to check the top cards of the deck again. I think we we hit the Keystone here. Summon Keystone out to the field, we're going to use Seeker now, special the Seeker. Synchro summon off into Baron the Fleur. Now we're going to use Block Dragon again, banish 3, bring it back, going into the Cheng Ying. Now we're going to use Block Dragon again. These two could have gone into a... like this could have been an IP Masquerena. This could be a Hope Harbinger Dragon if you want to play Hope Harbinger. This could be any number of things, right? And that's on top of already having summoned the Goddess of the Closed World, which is absolutely insane. Easy lethal here, and our opponent scoops it up as soon as we smack him with the Scrap Dragon. So that's disgusting how much advantage this deck generates. We still have 5 cards in hand. 5 cards still in hand. This is incredible. Let's get into the last replay. Already getting into our last replay here. This is going to be a pretty good one. Starting off with Secas Light again, basically Pot of Greed and then a free mulligan. Secas Light is busted. Absolutely need 2 of it. Shuffle back to Doki Doki, grabbing another Misting, which is fine. We're going to drop the Misting, grab the Flourishing Hills, summoning out the yellow Gadget from the graveyard. Yellow searches for green. Now we've got the Flourishing Hills to drop the green to the grave to search our deck for the Burr, the Awakening Forest, or whatever its name is, summoning out the green. Green searches red. Now Awakening Forest is going to drop the red. We're going to mill the Revival Golem, summon out the red. Red search yellow, Revival Golem, revive. There you go, 4 level 4s on board. Still got 5 cards in hand. Absolutely insane. And then this allows us to obviously exceed into Granite, grab our Block Dragon, and that's the whole point of this deck, is that the gadgets give you instantaneous access to your Block Dragon every single game. Summoning out the Block Dragon, linking too often the IP Masquerena to make sure we can get this search off with our monster. We've already got a Doki Doki, so basically what we're going to do here is we're going to utilize the Doki Doki's effect later in the turn. We didn't really need the Analyzer. We're going to summon out the Researcher here. Researcher, check the top 5 of the deck, see if we can hit a monster among them here, summon it out to the field. The only one we hit, unfortunately, is the statue, but we can still use that as link material for Geonitor Transverser, which we can now summon out our Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax with. Avramax is a hugely important part of the strategy because otherwise your barrier statue can just be punched. It's only got 1000 attack and defense. It's not that tough. Avramax forces them to attack it, meaning they can't just wipe out your barrier statue. We're going to Synchro Summon now off into Baron the Fleur. Of course, we are bringing out the Omni Negate, banishing a Never 3, bringing back the block, going for the barrier statue now, summoning it out to the field, summoning out now the Blackluster Soldier. Now we're banishing a Never 3, going into our Block Dragon. So what exactly is this board? We've got an Omni Negate, we've got Untargetable Indestructible. Untargetable Indestructible. We now have our Block Dragon, which is going to protect barrier statue and itself from destruction, so these cards also can't be destroyed, and if he wants to attack anything in the field, he has to attack our Avramax first, which basically gains the attack points of any monster it battles, meaning he can't attack us either. He's going to open up his turn with Lightning Storm of all cards. Nice Lightning Storm, Dork. Going into now, that unironically, I was actually a little bit annoyed about this because I thought our combo was like unbeatable. This is busted. He's actually playing Earth Monsters, which means the barrier statue does nothing, but we still have too much for him. He's going to go Harvester, we're going to go Ash Blossom, we're going to negate the Harvester. He, however, does have the Crossout Designator in his hand, so that's fair enough. He does manage to negate our Ash Blossom. Harvester's going to get Harvesting, I guess, grab himself an Infinitrack from the deck, but again, he's playing 4 cards into this board. It's not going to be easy. I don't even really think Infinitrack has a win con against Avramax, to be perfectly honest, but I mean, good luck to him. We're going to negate the Dozer after he activates its effective tribute, and I'm pretty sure at this stage he scoops it up. Busted. Busted, busted, busted. That is a damn board right there. I don't understand. This is incredible. I'm super impressed by this deck, if you can't tell. Let's get into the deck profile. I can talk a little bit more about it. It always feels good to win with classic old cards. In this case, the Gadgets. These guys have been out for donkeys, possibly decades. I don't even know when these guys came out, but they've been out from before I started playing the game as a child. So the Gadgets are absolute classics, and it's so cool to have a deck that not only, like, we're not even using them as a gimmick, they actually do their job super, super well. We're going to talk through the deck card for card, of course, talk about some of the basic combos. The deck isn't really all that complicated. But let's talk through it. We're going to start with Nemesis Keystone, one of the more replaceable monsters in the deck. He's okay. Basically, you can target a banished monster, shuffle it back into the deck to special summon this card out from the hand, and during the end phase, if this card is banished, you can add it back to your hand. So its value is sort of twofold. You can shuffle back a banished monster, and if it ends up banished, most likely by your Block Dragon, it then goes back to your hand, which is a little bit of value. It's a level 1 non-tuner, which means it can work with your Analyzer to go into your Naturia Beast. So there's a little bit going on with this card, but if you wanted to cut it, I wouldn't blame you. It's not that good. Triple Maxi, phenomenal hand trap, of course, stomps the majority of decks in the meta, and it's an Earth monster. What more could you possibly want? Doki Doki, discard a rock monster to special summon from your deck another rock with the same original attribute and level. Doki Doki is going to be one of the primary methods of ending with barrier statue of the drought on your board, because basically what you want to do is your core combo does not require you normal summon at all. You don't normal summon in your core combo, so you either want to normal summon your barrier statue or you want to normal summon your Doki Doki and trade something in for your barrier statue, right? So it gives you additional ways of going into it. We also needed additional level 2 targets in our deck, just in case we happen to open up one of our Adamantimators, so that we could make sure we can resolve Block Dragon to the fullest possible extent. Because ultimately, there were some times when we opened up one of our level 2s, and then we weren't able to search for the other level 2, because you need to search for exactly level 8. So we added these guys in as backup level 2s as well for the Block Dragon. Adamantimator, Seeker, and Researcher I'm going to lump into one category. Both of them are rock level 2 tuners that you can special summon from the hand. Seeker if you control an Adamantimator monster, and Researcher if you control any rock monster. They will special summon themselves. Both of them can also reveal the top 5 cards of the deck, and if you see a level 4 or lower non-tuner rock monster among those 5 cards, you can special summon it to the field, returning the other 4 back to the deck in any order. So both of them are very, very good extenders. They are primarily here to be searched off of your Block Dragon. You will guaranteed have these cards in your hand free and 1 if you don't get interrupted, ideally, which means that you don't need to hard draw them. They're not as good in this deck as they are in traditional Adamantipator decks, of course. We're not playing a ton of rock monsters, so they don't generate that much value with their effects, but it's mainly the fact that they're level 2 tuners that can special summon themselves. That's pretty much it. Like, they're basically just rock versions of Assault Synchron in this deck, if that makes sense. Triple Ash Blossom stops Maxi, which you really don't want Maxi to resolve against you. And that's fine. We cannot play Cult by the Grave or Crossout Designator in this deck because we're playing Secas Light, which we'll get to at the end. So having Triple Ash is pretty damn mandatory. Vernuslyph of the Misting Seedlings. So this guy or Vernuslyph of the Flourishing Hills, these are the ones that will basically start off your combos, right? So these are the two that actually matter. I don't believe they have a way of searching themselves, unfortunately, so you just have to hard draw one of the two. Awakening of the Forest isn't a terrible one either, but it doesn't start off the combos quite as well as these two do. So Vernuslyph of the Misting Seedlings, basically you can discard this card and another Earth monster from your hand to add an Earth Fairy monster from your deck to your hand, except itself of course, then you will special summon any Earth monster from your graveyard. So Seedling plus any of your 9 gadgets will give you full combo because you discard this and your gadget, you search your deck for Flourishing Hills, and then you special summon the gadget from the graveyard, and then the gadget on summon will search for a corresponding gadget from the deck, giving you additional earth material in hand to continue the loop. Now green on summon will search for red, red on summon will search for yellow, yellow on summon will search for green, so they just loop into one another. They are all level 4s, which is amazing because they go into Granite. They are all earth monsters, which is amazing because they can be banished from the grave for your block dragon. They are machines and not rocks, which slightly, it clashes a little bit with the Adamantipator monsters, which is why we're playing less of these guys. But again, level 4 earth monsters that continually loop and special summon generate so much advantage. These cards are amazing. We got Barrier Statue of the Drought, one of your win cons. Neither player can special summon anything except earth monsters so long as this guy is face up, so it does counter the majority of the meta. There's not really any big popular earth decks at the minute. So if you can get this guy out and protect it adequately, your opponent's going to be having a hard time outing your board. Then we got Kwakai Miru Guardian. This guy contributes himself to negate the activation of a monster effect and destroy it. Not a bad normal summon in certain situations, especially if you're going second. Sometimes when you've got the Seedling play and you're just a little bit afraid of a hand trap or something like that, you just normal summon the Guardian and you're protected. That's you done. Now, you do become a little bit more reliant upon your Adamantipator's in those situations, because while, yes, as long as you have the play, you can still go into your Block Dragon and search for your Adamantipator's and blah blah blah. That's great. But you now basically need to hit either Doki Doki, ideally Doki Doki, or your Barrier Statue off of one of your Adamantipator effects. So that is definitely big. You do need to bear that in mind. That if you commit to the Guardian, it is safer in terms of not getting interrupted, but you might cost yourself the Barrier Statue at the end if you're unlucky. Now, again, you get 3 attempts at it, right? Well, two or 3 attempts depending on whether or not you can summon the Analyzer. So it's not unlikely, right? There's a good chance you'll do it, but it's still something to bear in mind. Revival Golem, another integral part of your Vernuslyph combo, because what you'll do is Seedling, of course, will search for an Earth Fairy. We'll talk about this card first of all because it sort of is important as to why this card's important. So ideally Seedling then will search for Flourishing Hills. Flourishing Hills searches for Awakening of the Forest. Awakening Forest then doesn't get to search for a card, it instead sends an Earth monster to the graveyard from the deck. So what you want to do is you want to send Revival Golem from the deck to the graveyard, because then once this guy's effect resolves and you summon back your gadget, then your Revival Golem then will also special summon himself out to the field. So you special summon him out to the field as part of your core combo off of your Awakening Forest. Again, level 4 extender, he's an Earth, pretty straightforward stuff. He is just an extender that you can go into very, very easily. We have Adamantipator Analyzer, very similar to the other cards, except this guy's summoning condition is slightly different. He special summons himself if only your opponent controls a monster, meaning he's a very good card going second, not so much going first. So you don't play this guy as often as the other two. you can basically, he also does have the same excavate effect though. Reveal the top 5 of the deck. If you see a level 4 or lower non-tuner rock monster, try saying that 10 times fast. You then get to special summon it from the deck, returning the other cards in any order. So the Analyzer is less useful than the other two when you're going first, is more useful in an opening hand than the other two when you're going second, but only in the opening hand. Analyzer is, in this deck, sort of the weak link of the bunch, but he's also ridiculously easy to search, so you might as well play him, right? Vernuslyph, the Flourishing Hills, we've already talked about this card. Discard itself in an Earth monster, search your deck for another Vernuslyph monster, and then special summon an Earth from the grave. Pretty straightforward stuff as part of your main combo. Awakening Forest, same thing. Discard, discard. Instead, of searching a card, you instead mill a card. Ideally, your Revival Golem. And then you get to special summon an Earth monster. Pretty straightforward stuff. Lastly, we have the best card in the deck. Hands down. The best card in the deck, one of the best cards in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Being Block Dragon. Block Dragon will be searched every single game by your Granite, which you will do as part of your Gadget combo. So long as Block Dragon is face up, all of your rock monsters cannot be destroyed by any means other than battle. Very specific. I believe it's the only card in the game worded like that. It's a really weird way of wording that, to be honest. But basically, he can special summon himself from the hand or graveyard by banishing 3 Earth monsters from your hand or grave. And that's not limited to once per turn. That's as many times as you possibly can, which in and of itself is insane. Because it's a level 8 that just keeps on coming back and has that built-in protection. It's got that 3k defense just in case you actually need to end a board with it, which is incredible. But also, the first time it's sent to the graveyard, you get to search your deck for up to 3 rock monsters so long as their total levels equals exactly 8. That is insane. You get to search your deck for 3 monsters when it goes to the grave. You get to search for Researcher, you get to search for Seeker, and you get to search for any level 4, maybe an Analyzer, maybe a Statue, maybe a Guardian, whatever it is. You get to search your deck for 3 cards, which is insane. Incredible. Block Dragon, far and away the best card of the deck. This card needs banned. It does, I'm sorry. It needs to go. And lastly, we've got Secas Light, which is a card that not many people, I think, would be aware of. Basically, this card, if you have no spells or traps in your graveyard, you can draw 2 cards, but for the rest of the duel, you cannot activate spells or traps other than Secas Light. So it is a very, very valuable card. It is a pot of greed, but you cannot play spells or traps. You can also banish it from the graveyard to reveal a monster in your hand, shuffle it back in, and then draw a card. So basically it's Pot of Greed plus a mulligan, which is insane. This card's value is incredible, and it definitely makes it worth playing only monsters, because you really don't want to be stuck in a position where you have a Vernuslyph and a bunch of spells and traps. That's one of the issues that regular Adamantipator decks run into sometimes. So eliminating that risk entirely and just playing Secas Light for the incredible amount of value is probably the best way of going about it, I think. Okay, getting into the extra deck, we've got Naturia Beast. You've got a few different ways of summoning this. Basically, it can like infinitely negate spell cards. Anytime your opponent activates a spell effect, you send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard, negate the activation and destroy it. And that's not limited to once per turn, once per chain, anything like that. That's just anytime they activate a spell. So with this card face up, spells are now illegal. You will summon this off of either your Seeker or Researcher plus a Misting Seedling, or a Adamantipator Analyzer plus your Keystone. Those are really the only 2 ways of going about it. Because of that, you may find yourself in position where off of your final Vernuslyph effect, you might want, instead of summoning a Gadget, you might want to bring back your Misting Seedlings to see if you can go into a Naturia Beast instead. That's definitely a very, very valid play. It makes your Beast significantly easier to go into because you're guaranteed to already have 2 or 3, it'll be 3 level 4s already on your board. You'll have your first 2 Gadgets plus your Revival Golem, more than enough to still go into your Granite, so you can afford to bring back the level 3 instead and go into your Naturia Beast. Just enables a different line of play. Barchion's very similar. Instead of spell cards though, it is trap cards, and to negate, you banish 2 cards from your graveyard instead. So not quite as powerful. Obviously negating trap cards isn't as valuable as negating spell cards, and the fact that you have to banish cards from your graveyard to negate means that it isn't quite as infinite as our Naturia Beast is. But either way, it is still pretty solid. Very easy to summon, very solid card, especially in a game filled with the likes of Sulik, filled with Imperm, all of these pretty good cards that Barchion can now negate. The Scrap Dragon. This is one that you don't use this card very often, but when you use it, you use it. This is a personal thing for me. Scrap Dragon was one of my favorite generic level 8s in Duel Links. When I was playing Duel Links, Duel Links is the first game that I started playing to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Years and years ago. So Scrap Dragon does hold a bit of a place for me personally. You might not want to play it. If you don't have it, don't craft it. You don't need it. But damn, is it good in this deck, man. It's really good at sniping really problematic back row. It's a good way of getting rid of like monsters mid-combo. You saw how we used it in the gameplay to take out a continuous spell. So Scrap Dragon, I think, definitely has a place. It being an Earth monster is integral, because I probably didn't mention this, but the moment you activate any of your Vernuslyph cards, you cannot use the effects of any non-Earth monster for that turn. For the rest of that turn. Which means, yes, you may be able to summon out Fleur. You may be able to summon out Cheng Ying, Abyss Dweller, whatever. But none of those cards can activate their effects on the turn that they are summoned, so long as you've activated a Vernuslyph that turn. Now, they're still worth summoning, of course, because they can use their effects the next turn. But if you need power and you need it now, then you need Scrap Dragon. That's all I'm going to say. Basically, its effect pops the card you control and the card they control. It's diet DPE. It's DPE at home. So it is. It's not a quick effect, it's an ignition effect, which is the only bit that's bad about it. But definitely Scrap Dragon is a very useful resource. We've got Fleur. You summon level 10 synchros like it's nobody's business. It's actually slightly offensive. So we're playing both Fleur and Cheng Ying. Both cards are phenomenal. Fleur, of course, being a once per turn Omni Negate, which basically just lets you shut something down. Considering how oppressive your board already is, you're usually just going to save this negate for like the 1 or 2 cards they might have to potentially out your board. Because realistically, you're going to be sitting on an Avramax and a Barrier statue 90% of the time. So they're already in a super tough position. The number of cards they can play is extremely limited. So Fleur is just there to basically just turn off. Maybe they only had 1 playable card, maybe they only had 2 playable cards. Fleur is only there to narrow their options down even further. Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign Cheng Ying is a little bit more situational and a little bit more specific. Basically, he gains attack and defense 100 per banished card in play and reduces your opponent's attack and defense by 100 per banished card. If it would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish a card from your graveyard instead. And once per turn, if a card is banished from either, just in general, banished at all, you can banish a card from your opponent's field and their graveyard. So, a lot of banishment going on, built-in protection, big monster, boosts up himself, reduces their whole field, again, reducing how much they're able to threaten your already extensively protected board. And it is a little bit better in the tier limit matchup than Fleur is. I feel like Fleur's Omni Negate is like really low value against tier. So Cheng Ying, typically speaking, is way better. It really punishes their shuffler plays, really punishes the shufflers. It really makes them think twice about using those effects to actually slow you down, which of course is really good for you. And of course, it's huge. So Cheng Ying is phenomenal. Abyss Dweller, just another sort of specialist option. You summon out level 4s like it's nobody's business, so you can usually commit a couple of them to a Dweller in a pinch. Same with Baguska. If you get max seed, if you get negated, if you get stopped, usually you can very easily go into at least a rank 4, so it's not too big of a problem. Granite, of course, the premier card of the deck. So you'll summon this every single turn 1. It will search your deck for any rock monster. It's going to grab you your block dragon. This card is the key to making this deck work. Any 2 level 4s, that's the only reason the gadgets facilitate this deck so easily. Getting into our Link monsters, we play IP Masquerena, integral part of the Avramax combo. You need Avramax in this deck, and IP makes the Avramax even tougher to get rid of, making it immune to card effect destruction. Pretty awesome. Geonitor Transverser. This is here basically just as another link to use to go off into your Avramax. You're going to summon IP, then you're going to summon this, and you're going to go into Avramax. The reason we made this card in particular is because it's an earth and it's a rock. So it serves a couple of purposes, but primarily you can still summon this card under Barrier Statue, which makes this a way to get rid of your Barrier Statue if you need to. You saw in the gameplay how off of our Researcher we had a Barrier Statue and we had to summon it basically, unless either that or not summon anything. We were able to summon the Barrier Statue and use it as material for this guy, so we could still end up going into an Avramax without costing us that card advantage that we otherwise would have been sacrificing. So this card is mainly here for its attribute and the fact that it can get rid of your Barrier Statue when you're not ready to commit to it just yet. We've got Sprite Elf. We've yet to summon Sprite Elf. It seems like a pretty straightforward option, but to be perfectly honest with you, your level 2s are very rarely available to summon Sprite Elf. So you can cut this card, it's not the biggest deal in the world. We just really couldn't think of a good card for this last slot. Sprite Elf is the one we landed on, but you could play anything in this slot. You really could. It's just we never summoned this guy. He was only here because we do play so many level 2s. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. This is one that had a few people in the Discord raising their eyebrows. They were a little bit weirded out by this one, and I can't say I blame him, but he's really good. He's basically like a diet Avramax. He's Avramax at home. If you use a level 7 or higher as material, it cannot be targeted by card effects and cannot be destroyed by card effects. And you're always going to use a level 7 or higher because you've got your Block Dragon. In my head, that's why I had it. Plus, it's an Earth monster, which means you can summon it under Barrier Statue. And if it attacks and destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can gain one of 3 effects. Number 1, you can boost its attack points by 1500 permanently. So how are they going to get over a 45 beater that can't be targeted by or destroyed by card effects? This is literally, it just becomes the Blue Eyes alternative Ultimate Dragon. That's how I think about it. It just becomes the Blue Eyes alternative Ultimate Dragon. Secondary to that, you can also forego the attack boost to give it a second attack during the next battle phase. That's probably the weakest effect. You never use that one. But its other main effect is you can banish a card in the field. So if you're playing against the likes of tier limits, you can utilize the Soldier of Chaos to start banishing their back row, banish a Suluk, banish a Rhinoheart, banish a Kalos, whatever it is. Basically just allows you to be a little bit more strategic and a little bit more spot removal. And it doesn't target either. And it usually happens, I'm pretty sure this activates in damage calculation. I can't remember though. Probably not actually, probably after that. But either way, phenomenal card. I definitely would recommend playing him if you have him. And you can get him from the structure deck. He's a free to play card. You can get him in the Blackluster Soldier and Gaia structure deck. So he's basically free to play. Mekk-Knight Crusader Avramax, star of the show, works alongside your Barrier Statue. So long as this guy's face up, he is the only monster your opponent can target for an attack, which is so important to the strategy because you don't want them just punching your statue in the face. It is very small. Avramax keeps it safe. It can't be targeted by card effects. It won't be able to be destroyed with card effects because of your Masquerena. And if it battles an opponent's monster, it gains attack points equal to theirs during damage calculation, which means they're not baiting it by battle. Avramax is a huge problem in the meta now in general, but now you're relying even more heavily upon him in this deck and leaning into his skill set, not just as an out to some big decks, but also relying upon what he can actually do to bring value to your board. So you're utilizing Avramax in an actual proactive method that most strategies don't. And then the last two are pretty generic. We have Appalosa. You can vomit monsters onto the board like it's nobody's business, so going into a 4 material Appalosa isn't the most difficult thing in the world. And lastly, our Underworld Goddess. This one I would say is pretty core. Basically, you just need this. You can summon this card and needs at least 4 monsters, but one of those monsters can be your opponent's, which essentially makes it like an extra deck Kaiju, which is very, very useful right now. As you saw in the gameplay, we used it to get rid of a Time Lord, which is dead handy. When it's summoned, well, sorry, it's on summon effect you're never going to be able to use because you'll typically already have used the Vernuslyph that turn, so it doesn't activate. But once per turn, it can negate the an effect of a card that would special summon something from the graveyard, and it is unaffected by any card effect that doesn't target it. So it's got like reverse targeting protection. But yeah, that's the deck. I don't know if it's perfect. There's definitely some changes you can make. If you really don't want to play Barchion, you don't have to. It's a UR, I get it. You can cut it. It's not that big a deal. I like it for Sulik, but to each their own. If you don't want to play Scrap Dragon, play Scrap Dragon. If you don't want to play Appalosa, find something else. You've got a lot of room for maneuvering. What I would potentially change in hindsight about the deck is I would love to play Mudora and Keldo, even just at 1 each, so that I have a backup search target off of the Misting Seedlings, because sometimes we had this card and we also had Flourishing Hills, so we didn't need to search for it. Or we also had this, which means we didn't need to use this search on... You know, sometimes you just didn't need the search for the Vernuslyph, and having these guys available in the deck, even just as generic monsters, or discard fodder, or whatever it is pretty useful. But I wasn't playing them, so I'm not going to put them in. But bear in mind that that is something you can do. If you want to cut like a Keystone and cut maybe a Guardian, maybe you want to cut one of your gadgets out, pick your least favorite color. But yeah, just an option for you. That's pretty much everything that I've got. Again, if you've got any ideas and questions, suggestions about this deck or anything else you want to see me do or have done, feel free to leave them below. Or you can even join the Discord, which is where we actually built this live on call with people. Because again, that's something I'll often do, is just sit in a Discord call with a bunch of members and we just chat, play a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, do whatever we're doing. Yeah, I've rambled on long enough. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.